Hello everyone, welcome to EduTab. I'm Surbhi and this is Perspective 360 Degree, your one-stop solution for current affairs, descriptive writing and answer writing evaluation. Before proceeding any further, all of you who are with me live right now, kindly let me know in the chat section if the audio is clear and the video is clear, and then we'll proceed further. I'm waiting for your responses in the chat section. Good evening, Mints. Is the audio and video both clear to you? Since I've got only your response till now. Okay. So guys, is everything clear? Because last week we had a problem with the audio, due to which we had to delay the session by one day, and I don't want anything to be repeated again. Okay, all good. All right. So today we are focusing on Jan Vishwas Act. Yes, the bill has been passed by both houses of parliament. Thoda sa purana news hai. It's an old news that it was passed by both houses of parliament last year. And why this is important? Now we are preparing for regulatory bodies examination. Then why this topic from polity, a bill that has been converted into an act. Why is this important? Because this is very important from ease of doing business and ease of living point of view in your country. That's why there are high chances that you can be asked a specific question with regards to this in objective, in essay, and a separate question in descriptive section. And in any case, the knowledge that you will have from this act after this discussion, it will help you write other answers as well. So it's a very important topic. And good evening, Anmol Soni. Thank you, Mins. Thank you, Anmol. Okay, so from times of suspicion to times of more trust, that is what we are trying to build with Jan Vishwas Act. So this is from your commerce minister. He's recently said that industry must give inputs on Jan Vishwas bill for continued decriminalization of minor offences. This is from Mr. Piyush Goyal. And though I told you, this act has been appearing in news from time to time. Why? Because the government says that there will not be just one act. We will keep on bringing subsequent acts by the name of Jan Vishwas Act. So probably it will be every year or every 2 years. So the government is asking for inputs from industry leaders. And what are the inputs that they're asking for? I'll let you know in detail in a while. This is a snapshot from PRS research, that is PRS legislative research. If you want to know about any bills or acts of the parliament and you want to get a comprehensive discussion on that, a written discussion on that, then PRS is your website to go. Kindly log into that. It's free of cost. So as you can see, this bill was introduced in Lok Sabha in 2022, December 22 of 2022. Okay, then it was passed in Lok Sabha on July 27 of last year, that is 23, and then it was passed in Rajya Sabha on August 2 of 2023. Okay, so as of now, this bill has been passed in both the houses of parliament, and for more details, you can refer to this PRS website, PRS Legislative Research. Okay, now Indian Express has covered recently that distrust of employers is bred into Indian policy. Distrust of employers. Who are the employers? Employers are the job providers, people who run their own businesses, their companies, their organizations. So they are your employers. So it is bred into Indian policy. That means Indian policy is created in a way that it does not trust the employers. On one hand, we are wanting more and more jobs for our people. On the other hand, we are distrusting them. For example, we are promoting Startup India and schemes like Stand Up India are being launched. We want more entrepreneurs to be, coming out of our country and providing jobs in like hinterlands and in all parts of the country. But there is distrust of employers. Government does not trust these entrepreneurs or employers. So it needs to end. This is an old article. The date appears that is of today because the snapshot has been taken today. Okay, so Observer Research Foundation covered this topic comprehensively. It said jailed for doing business. That means in India you do not have ease of doing business. You are actually jailed for doing business because even if you commit a small error while running your company, organization, or business, whatever you're doing in the country, then the direct provision or the direct penalty for that is not a fine or not a fee. There is just direct imprisonment. So that's why it is not promoting ease of doing business climate in the country, and hence to change all of these, your Jan Vishwas Act, which is in favor of employers, that has been brought in. So there are around 26,000 imprisonment clauses in India's business laws. So why would somebody want to invest in India, create a business in India? So this is from February 10, 2022. Again, this article is old, but the research is very much relevant from your exam point of view, and we have taken a lot of important points from this article of Observer's Research Foundation. Looking at the syllabus, how this topic is relevant for your syllabus. So for RBI grade B, you have this topic, you have this paper 1, economic and social issues. So for poverty alleviation and employment generation in India, this topic is very important. Then changes in industrial and labor policy, again very important. And finally for political economy. For NABARD grade A, again for the employment generation of India part in your ESI paper, this topic is very important. And for industrial and labor policy, again very important. For SEBI grade A, this topic has a little relevance with the Companies Act, because to promote companies, to promote ease of doing business in your country, Companies Act was amended in 2019 and 2020 subsequently. So this topic is related to that amendment. And for English writing skills, obviously SEBI aspirants out there, this topic holds relevance. Okay, so let's look at the expected question. If you have any additions to make till here, then kindly let me know in the chat section. I will be happy to answer and happy to take your additions. Okay, so first of all, let's look at the expected question. It's give a brief description of Jan Vishwas Act. Also highlight the potential benefits and risks associated with the implementation of new provisions under the Act. So as you can see, this question is divided into many parts, and whatever questions you see in the final exam, that will also be divided into many parts. So the first thing that we need here is the answer blueprint. How are we going to start the answer? That is with introduction, and then we'll have a main body part. In the main body part, we will address all the subparts of the question, and then we'll proceed to writing a conclusion, which is like provide solutions, gives a way forward, and things like that. Okay, so now the question here is give a brief description of Jan Vishwas Act. So having a brief description is one part. Then highlight the potential benefits, second part, and risks associated with the implementation of new provision under the Act. So there are three parts to this question, and hence we'll divide the body part into three parts. Okay, so the first one is general overview of Jan Vishwas Act. That will be your introduction. In the introduction, basically it's a warm up session with the examiner. Introduction में हम क्या करते हैं, बहुत ही generally बात करते हैं जिस टॉपिक के बारे में क्वेश्चन पूछा गया है. We talk very generally about the question, about the topic under discussion. That's what we do in our introduction. In the body part 1, we'll talk about the provisions of this act in brief, whatever we know that I'll tell you. And in the body part 2, as we have been asked about the benefits, so we'll be writing the pros of this act. And in the body part 3, there will be cons that will be talked about. That means what is the downside or risks associated with this act. And finally, in the conclusion, we'll provide a way forward. Okay, so first of all, beginning with the introduction. Now, as I told you, there have been news about India's business policy being anti-employer. So to promote ease of doing business and ease of living in the country, so that people don't flee off the country in search of jobs to better lands. So that's why this act has been brought in, and after subsequent revisions, this act has been implemented. So we need a certain level of background points here. So first of all, there was this ease of doing business rankings which were published by World Bank. They were published by World Bank, and if I talk about 2013, India had its rank as 132 out of 185 countries in ease of doing business rankings. Have you heard about these rankings, any one of you in the audience? Now this ranking was improved to 63. Look at this, from 132 in 2013 to 63 in 2020. So this was a major improvement, but after 2020, these rankings were stopped because it was realized that we can have a better measure of finding ease of doing business in any country. So yes, these rankings motivated us, but many researchers also proved, and many standing committees, they also said that there are reforms required in the country to reduce deterrence to business activity. That if you want to promote businesses in the country, if you want to promote investments in your country, and if you want these investments should be there for the long run, they should not be like fleeing off in the form of foreign institutional investors. That should be FDI, that should be proper investment. Then you need to be business friendly, your environment needs to be business friendly. Any person who's afraid of investing in India, starting a business in India, because he feels that probably if I delay filling a form by some time, or if I use some kind of let's say additives in the medicines that I'm producing, then I'll be jailed. Then such people, they're not motivated to invest in your country or to start a company in your country, and hence jobs cannot be created as without the manufacturing sector. We've talked about this in detail previously. So the Company Law Committee, it identified that criminal liability, that means a person pushing a person to jail for technical or procedural contraventions, to be a deterrent to business activity. That means you need to deduct criminal liability for small errors from all these business related acts, whether it's the Companies Act or any other act. So in 2019 and 2020, Companies Act was amended and some of the provisions were decriminalized, and to give that a major push, this Jan Vishwas Act has been brought in. So first of all, this bill was referred to a joint parliamentary committee. It was chaired by Mr. P.P. Chaudhary, and there were many suggestions that were given. And your Merchant Shipping Act, they were amended. Boilers Act, they were amended. So basically now it has been seen that this act which has been brought in, it amends various sections of various acts, including the Indian Forest Act, Indian Shipping Act. So बहुत सारे acts आपके यहाँ पर amend किए जाएंगे, and many of the provisions have been decriminalized कि अब jail नहीं होगी. Jail for small errors will not be that will not be the punishment. A penalty can be levied. For example, penalty has been raised from in some provisions from 10,000 to 5 lakh rupees. So monetary loss is still good till a certain extent, but pushing somebody to jail, putting somebody behind bars and involving them legally, that's actually trapping the employers of the country. So that's why this act aims to do away all of these provisions. So Jan Vishwas Amendment of Provisions Bill 2023, it was passed in Parliament in 2023 itself, and aims at giving a boost to ease of living and ease of doing business. So since introductions are basically warm-up conversations with the examiner, so directly tell about what this act is, what was the bill associated. When the bill is passed in the Parliament and it receives President's assent, then it becomes an act. So that's why we are referring to the bill here, and the main aim of this act has been referred in the first line itself. Now, what does this bill do, or what does this act do? It proposes to amend 183 provisions, that's a lot, in 42 central acts, that means which are by the union government, administered by 19 ministries or departments covering various domains. What are the domains covered? For example, environment. Environment means if an industry has to be established and they're releasing some level of pollutants in the river. So now jail will not be the punishment, but a heavy penalty would be levied on them. Agriculture, media, industry, trade, information technology, copyright, motor vehicles, cinematography, food safety, etc. So any sector that you talk about has been covered here. So that's a great deal for a country like India, which is aspiring to become a $5 trillion economy and is aspiring to become a global leader in the times to come. So it's it is a very small step. Just 0.1% of the provisions have been decriminalized. That's why Mr. Piyush Goyal is saying that we will bring more and more such acts. Jan Vishwas Act 2 will be brought in, 3, 4, 5, 6 will be brought in, and all these provisions will be decriminalized with the passage of time. But are these all in favor of the country, or are there any risks associated? That is where we'll discuss this. So Getting back to your introduction, the main objective of the bill, as I told you, decriminalization of minor offenses. You cannot produce a toxic medicine and then, just pay 10 lakh rupees and get away with it when people are dying because of the medicines that a business has produced. That is not a part of the act or the subsequent bills. That will never be made a part of it. But, minor errors that can be avoided and that can be dealt with penalty itself. So, decriminalize minor offenses, that is the main objective of the bill, and rationalize criminal provisions to reduce undue pressure on the justice system. There are more than 1 crore cases pending in the judiciary, with the Indian judiciary. So to reduce the pressure on them, various officers have been appointed and your criminal provisions have been converted into penalties. So address technical and procedural defaults without imposing severe penalties, and establish a balanced approach between severity of offense and prescribed punishment. And obviously boost the growth of businesses by eliminating barriers and promoting a conducive legal environment. So that's all the objective and that's all the background of this act that has been brought in. So it is going to be in favor of the people who are providing jobs, in favor of businesses, and all the sectors ranging from agriculture to environment. They have all the subsequent all the related acts have been amended. So till here, if you have any additions to make or any doubts, then kindly let me know in the chat section. I'll be happy to address those doubts. Good evening, Neha. Okay, so then we'll proceed to the body part 1, and here we'll discuss the provisions of this act in brief. So now the provisions can be divided into 4 parts, and here we are focusing on the major provision here, that is focus on healthcare. What do we mean by healthcare? When I talk about healthcare with regards to this act, I will be talking about India being the pharmacy of the world. We are the highest producer of generic medicines in the world. We export medicines at a very cheap rate to poor countries of Africa, of many countries. Thank you, Kshitij. Many countries in the Middle East. So healthcare has been a major focus here, and the features, when I talk about the features with regards to this act, let's say you're decriminalizing a provision that, let's say you produce a medicine and some small amount of toxin has gone into it by mistake. So the employer will not be jailed, the head of that company will not be jailed, but can pay a small fine. Then don't you think errors or probability of errors or probability of carelessness will increase? That is also a side to look at it, and that is what we are going to write about when we talk about the risks associated. And the most of the risks are coming from the environment point of view and from the medicines point of view. So that is what we are going to talk about. First of all, let's look at key features. First of all, amendment of multiple procedures. As I told you, the bill targets amendment of 183 provisions with 42 central acts. You don't have to remember all the numbers, and the name of ministries or departments doesn't have to be recalled by you. You just can mention that all the acts or provisions which aim to criminalize minor offenses, they have been amended, and or they will be subsequently amended. And if you have mentioned this line in the introduction, then kindly do not repeat it. Just save some part of the introduction for the later information. So you can talk about that agriculture, environment, media, publication, and healthcare. All of these sectors have seen amendments. All the acts related to such sectors have seen amendments. For example, the Air Act, Environment Protection Act, or Forest Act of 1927. All these acts have seen amendments. Okay, so conversion of fines to penalties. Now fine has to be paid with some authority. Penalty can be paid, let's say, when you are paying taxes or when you are applying for the license again. So penalties are easier to for the government to get as compared to fee, because as compared to a fine. So that has been made easy here. So simplifying the process of imposing punishments for offenses and minimizing the need for court intervention, and established a balanced approach between the severity of offense and prescribed punishment. Now removal of imprisonment as punishment. This is very important here because, as I told you, it reduces the burden of judiciary also. So using penalties as a more efficient means of addressing non-compliance as compared to putting somebody behind the bars for 1 year or for 3 months, 6 months, let's say, and then they have to hire an advocate to lodge a bail for them, to ask for a bail for them. So such irritants they have been done away with, and rationalizing criminal provisions to reduce undue pressure on justice system, and addressing technical and procedural defaults without imposing severe penalties. For example, if there is a toxin in some food product or a medicine and the quantity is very very low and that is by mistake, so these are technical and procedural defaults and severe penalties will not be imposed for them. Okay, then focus on healthcare. So they have said that India is the pharmacy of the world, and hence a balance needs to be maintained, because we want more and more types of medicines should be produced in India. If there is a drug that can cure cancer altogether, then we want such companies to establish their bases in India and make these medicines at a cheaper cost, so that the people of India can benefit and people of the world can benefit. So that's why balancing healthcare needs of the country and the world, and criminalization provisions which actually criminalized small offences, that balance has been maintained. So notable amendments they have been proposed for acts such as Drug and Cosmetics Act, Foods Safety and Standards Act, and Pharmacy Act of 1948. You do not have to remember all these acts, just mention one of these and mention the idea that why focus on healthcare has been made. Now moving on to the benefits. What will be the benefits? Of course, we can study them under 4 heads. If efficient punishments are there now, that they will not be delayed, first of all. Secondly, the employers will not feel unfair, that obviously they are benefiting the society by providing would be brought in. Business friendly environment, and which leads to ease of doing business or economic growth, and then balancing health and business. So I'll explain this one by one. So first of all, when we talk about efficient punishments, the benefit is that fines and penalties can expedite the process of administering punishments for offences, potentially leading to quicker resolution of cases. So you might know that some companies who have some level of toxins which are safe to consume, very minute level of toxin which are very safe to consume, even if there is the agencies visit their premises, then the reputation of that company and that businessman that goes down, and hence the business of that company suffers. Nobody wants to buy their products. Now all of this can be quick. Previously it was taking many years, and hence the reputation of the company and the profits of the company were being affected, and hence that was not a good environment for a country that wants to be business friendly. So now the process is going to be much faster. The pressure on justice system would be reduced, plus more effective justice dispensation would be there. If you have already written that pressure on justice system would be reduced, we've written it once, then you can talk about that justice dispensation would be more effective and efficient. Then there would be a business friendly environment, because removal of imprisonment as a punishment is already a motivating factor for many businesses, reducing concerns about severe penalties. So more favorable atmosphere for businesses would be created. It will okay, let me take a highlighter here so that my ink marks stay. So it will foster trust-based governance, which is very important. So okay, you can't see what's written properly with the highlighter, so I'm switching to the pen here. Sorry for all the additions. Okay, this pen is very minute. I'll just go back to the laser point. So that's the way to go for today. So it will foster trust-based governance, that businesses who want to establish their bases in India, their offices in India, who want to provide jobs in India, start their production in India, they will trust the government of the country. So citizen, government and businesses all can walk hand in hand and work towards development of the country. So in government departments, they can operate without fear of imprisonment for minor defaults. Then ease of doing business, this is kind of repetitive language with the second point. I would request you to change it to economic growth, because here we'll be focusing on increase in level of employment that we will be providing, that can be provided with the help of these. So ability of businesses to operate more smoothly, but it will attract more investment. More investment will lead to more economic growth, and hence it will will lead to job creation. So this is a very important point. I know in such answers all points appear to be the same, but you have to differentiate between ease of doing business and job creation. These can be your separate 2 points. And the amendments, first of all, they're positioned in a way to modernize and simplify regulations. And internationally also these norms are followed. India is not the first country who's decriminalizing such minor offenses. So internationally also India's provisions would now be aligned with all the other countries who are aiming to provide ease of doing business in their countries. Okay, so aligning India's practices with international norms. Balancing health and business, this is an important point here. Do not forget it. Even if you see a question with regards to health or pharmacy, or any question with regards to health, even in your essay, kindly describe this point, that India being the pharmacy of the world, this is in quote. Hence, while ensuring the availability of high quality medicines, it is equally important to provide reasonable benefits to businesses, striking a balance between these objectives. So provision of medicines and profits to businesses, that goes hand in hand. If India is a more profitable country for people to establish pharmacies here, then definitely more business will want to invest in the healthcare industry of your country, which is the need of the hour. Also, we want private sector to be investing more and more in healthcare. Now, there are some risks involved. That means there are some side effects of this. The first one is environmental concern and healthcare concern, that compliance will be lesser and probability of carelessness would be higher. Your environment can be impacted because Environment Protection Act has also been amended, Forest Act has also been amended. So these are the cons associated. And this is again a snapshot from Indian Express. This is an old one. That will manufacturers of substandard drugs get away with just a fine? That means the drugs that we're talking about here are your medicines prescribed by doctors. So if there is some manufacturing default, let's say you're getting a paracetamol, and you know that if you take a paracetamol, your fever would be reduced, and what are its effects. Okay, but let's say some toxins are introduced in less quantity because the manufacturer knows that even if we get caught, we can just pay a small fine, and we can just get away with it. But on the other hand, first of all, not everybody gets caught until unless the side effects are brought to public attention. Secondly, even if caught, imprisonment is a higher deterrent. अगर किसी को जेल हो सकती है तो वो उसको ज़्यादा रोकती है ऐसा कोई भी क्राइम करने से, ऐसा कोई भी केयरलेसनेस बरतने से, एज कम्पेयर टू somebody who just feels that a small amount of fine I'll pay if I get caught. Otherwise, let me just use the toxin or the expired medicines again. Okay, so that is a major concern here. And similarly with food products also, FSSAI has been working very hard to provide good quality food products in your country. Many many campaigns by FSSAI have been launched from time to time so that it can promote healthy eating in the country, and it can provide awareness with regards to food products. Now, in a way, the government is saying to the businesses that okay, go ahead till a certain extent with whatever you want to make people eat, and it will not be a crime. So that is just to a certain extent. So public health concerns, that is first one, and diminished penalties might lead to lax quality control in sectors like healthcare and food safety, potentially impacting consumer well-being. So we are at the receiving end if something goes wrong. Then critics argue that reduced penalties for not of standard quality drugs and pharmacy license violations could compromise patients' safety, which is a very, very major concern, by lowering the consequences for non-compliance. Industry accountability is second one, that reduced penalties and elimination of imprisonment might weaken the deterrent effect on potential violators. It will become very easy for them to violate certain standards, potentially leading to increased non-compliance. And see, you cannot go after each and every medicine brand or after each and every consignment and test it or investigate it. There's so many medicines produced in the country. There's so many food products produced in the country. So when you reduce the deterrent, the chances of such offenses become high. Then appointment of officers. As I told you that burden of judiciary is being reduced, because compliance is being reduced. Also, they have been suggested that some nodal officers should be appointed. For example, for looking after infringements with regards to if some countries, if some not country, if some companies causing air pollution, then a nodal officer would be appointed to look after that, to look after all the complaints regarding that, to look after compliance with regards to that. So many officers have been appointed or are to be appointed, and critics have questioned that any officer who's looking after healthcare, after environment, should be well qualified with regards to healthcare. For example, if somebody is looking with regards to Air Act, then he she should be aware of the provisions of Air Act and what is air pollution and what is not air pollution. So these were the problems that were raised, concerns about the appointment of abjugating officers under the Air Act 1986 and Air Act of 1971, Environment Protection Act of 1986, questioning their technical competence for such legal proceedings. Competence of officers has been challenged. And now, here is a catch. Now you're talking about competence of some officers. You cannot write that competence of such officers is under question, because these are government officials and you're appearing for an exam that will provide you with a government job. So you can you can just say indirectly that concerns were raised, or as we said here, critics argue. Critics, so not you, but critics have argued. Okay, who are the critics? You don't need to remember their names, but whenever you want to put out a negative point, never take it on yourself, never present it as a personal point. Just mention the name critics and let's say researchers or experts. Mention the name. Use the word experts for referring to something positive, and use the word critics to refer to something negative. So that's your way to go. Now, moving on to the final part, that is conclusion. In the way forward, what do we have? Your Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has recently said, and this is a news from December itself, that the industry must give its inputs. Let's say businesses or businessmen are affected by small compliances, or let's say there is something very vague provision. There is some very vague provision which was created 50 years ago and has no relevance right now. But even a small disruption in such of the in any such things in a company can lead that businessman to go to jail. He can go to jail because of that. Then such provisions are so many in number. As I told you in one of the slides, that they are more than 26,000. And right now, how many have we amended? We have amended a few, just a few hundreds. We've not amended like thousands of provisions. I think 182, 192 provisions, they will be amended. So now Mr. Piyush Goyal has said that industry leaders, please tell us which provisions are creating problem for you and what are these provisions that you want us to amend in the next Jan Vishwas Act. That's why this act is very, very important for you, because you will see subsequent acts this year or next year. So industry must give its inputs to the government for the next edition of Jan Vishwas Bill to continue the process of decriminalization of laws and reduction of compliance burden. So they say that again he referred that the idea behind this act is to cut across departments and ministries and find areas where minor errors without any malified intentions can lead to somebody being termed as a criminal. So these criminal provisions, they have to be avoided. And he has also given an example that if there is adulteration in food which is intentional, and there are spurious medicines, that means wrong medicines or expired medicines have been floated again in the market, and that can happen. So that has to be taken seriously. Your Commerce and Industry Minister himself has said that such cases have to be taken very, very seriously, and these offences cannot be decriminalized. But for small errors, misdemeanors, wherever possible, we want to decriminalize to promote more and more ease of doing business in the country. Now, in the conclusion, you can write about this act that this bill or this act emerges as a multi-dimensional legislative reform. That why is it multi-dimensional legislative reform? Because it is not introducing reform in just one sector. Many sectors, environment, agriculture, shipping, all of these multiple sectors are being seeing a reform to promote both the well-being of the public and the growth of businesses. So the challenge lies in crafting regulations that not only facilitate industry growth, but also uphold public health, safety, and societal responsibility, ultimately leading to a harmonious and prosperous nation. This challenge, this challenge can be for the subsequent acts. Obviously, about the present act, you have to be all praises about it. अपने अभी वाले एक्ट की तारीफ करनी है अपने कंक्लूजन में. अगर आपको कोई भी प्रॉब्लम है अभी वाले एक्ट से, so talk about that subsequent acts need to be framed by keeping this in mind or that in mind, and then just appreciate it using this line or the line on the previous slide, this one. Okay, so you can use such references. You can also quote the current commerce and industry minister in your answer, in your way forward, and you should be good to go with this answer. I'm displaying the question again on the screen. Till that time, if you have any doubts or additions to make, then kindly let me know in the chat section. If some company got involved in it, can we mention it? Kshitij, if some company got involved in a criminal case, see, if you are aware and if the judiciary has announced its final decision that yes, this company was involved into like something that amounts as a crime, that and many people have been affected, they have seen losses, then you can definitely mention it in your answer. But make sure that if something is recently in news, then the final decision of judiciary might be pending. It might take a few years for the judiciary to give its final decision. In that case, it is good to avoid such examples. So, and if the actions were taken under this act or bill. Thank you, Ashok sir. And Kshitij, no actions will be taken under this act. Basically, this act will reform the previous provisions. Either it will declare them as null and void. Secondly, if it is not declaring them null and void, then let's say a jail of 6 months will be replaced by a fine of 5 lakh rupees. Let's say if some industry is releasing polluted water into a river flowing by, and that is just an example, I'm not referring to the present acts or present provisions. If some industry is releasing polluted water into a nearby river, then let's say the previous provision was that the owner of that industry would be given a 6 months jail term or 1 year jail term. Then that jail term has been replaced by a fine of 5 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees. So now the owner is not afraid of jail. What he's afraid of is a very high penalty. So which is in any case better, because even if he's paying the penalty once for carrying out any such error, next time or even for the first time, he's going to be more vigilant. And when obviously if he's not in jail, he can also take care of such activities in future which might occur because of errors conducted by his staff members. All right, thank you, Veenu ma'am. So we have no more doubts coming. Okay, I'm still waiting here, guys. So 40 minutes long discussion. This has been a long one. So if you have any feedback for Perspective 360 Degree, you can email to us at hello@edutap.co.in. Otherwise, under this video, there is a comment section that is open for your answers. Kindly post your answers in the next 48 hours to get free evaluation by our experts. And I hope this initiative is benefiting you. In the same comment section, let us know how are you benefiting out of this initiative. Even if this is your first video, kindly post your answer. Start writing answers so that you can polish your skill by the time you have to sit for phase 2 examination. Okay, and get that fear out of you. One answer should not take very long, 1 to 1.5 hours. 3 times in a week. I think this is the time you should definitely devote if you want to make it to the final list. If for any other doubts or to know about our courses, about our paid courses, you can reach out to us at this number. And till then, I'll see you on Wednesday 5 p.m. That is also the deadline for posting answers for this video. Till then, just take care and keep working very, very hard. Thank you, Kshitij. Thank you, and all the very best to all of you. Who've been connected with Perspective 360 Degree, and all the new viewers as well. We appreciate your consistency, and we want to appreciate you as toppers and as like successful people in the final list, as officers you want to be. Okay, take care, and I'll see you on Wednesday at 5 p.m.